Yes! What's going on, everybody? It's Tuesday night, 10 o'clock Central Time. You guys know what that means. It means it's time for Just the Tip with me, your host, Uncle Weezy. We've got 12 fights to break down on this UFC Vegas 53 card coming up this Saturday, headlined by Marlon Vera against Rob Font. Going to be a banger of a 5-round bantamweight main event, you guys. Two top 10 guys that are really looking to make a run at the championship. We've got some sketchy fights besides that, but the main card is full of some really interesting fights. And the undercard is full of some really bettable fights. So you guys know it really doesn't matter who's on the card. The best cards are the ones where we stack cash tickets like flapjacks. So let's figure out a way to make some more money this week. Quick recap of last week. Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week is on fire, you guys. We've got Aori Quileng going out there shaving the ass of Cameron Else in violent fashion, finishing that fight in the very first round. That is like 2 out of 3 where I picked them and they finished in the very first round. Alexei Oleinik 2 weeks ago, Quileng this week. Last week we had Martin Budai. That one was a little bit sketchy, but still, I mean, it was a completely one-sided fight. Barnett didn't win a second of that fight. So we were on a complete heater there. Up 3.23 units tracked betting last week. We cashed on Preston Parsons' money line for 1.2 units. We cashed on the fight doesn't go to decision for Quileng and Else. We cashed on the fight doesn't go to decision for Wright Barrio. And we cashed on the under 2.5 for Andrade and Lemos, and the bets that I lost were 3/4 of a unit on the Montana De La Rosa money line. Wow, Macy Barber really brought a fantastic game plan, kept that fight up against the fence where she was at her strongest and made it look pretty easy against Montana. And we also lost a couple of sprinkles. I had a 3rd round sprinkle on Jordan. He won in the very first round, and I had the first round knockout for Jordan Wright, 10-1 quarter units. So yeah, up 3.23 units. Great week. Let's keep it going for this week. We got 12 fights to break down, you guys. We're going to be doing it with you guys in the chat like we always do. My guy JP62 first in the room saying, can't wait for this one. What's up, JP? We got my guy Mushroom in the room saying, Uncle Weezy, oi. Smooth Jimmy Apollo, oi. What's up, Mushroom? Good to see you in here, man. My guy Victor De Jesus saying, oi. Yes, we all know who the ass shaving of the year is, but tonight I'm here to know who the ass shaving of the week is. Man, Victor, I'll tell you something. I've had a very, very, very difficult time settling on an ass shaving of the week this week. There's some very dangerous underdogs, and it's got me a little bit shook, but we're on a hot streak. I'm going to trust my instincts here, and I'm going to try to give you a guy that I think can really dominate the fight. So we're going to have to wait till the end of the show to do that, but we will be getting an ass shaving of the week and another ass shaving of the year. I don't want to ruin it for you guys, but I think if you were watching last week, you know what that's going to be already. We got my guy David Milk saying, oi. We got Rob seeing double hammer fist last week. Still pissed off that Romanov cancellation. Hopefully it happens this week. Yeah, man, that was a nightmare for DFS players that were heavy on Romanov. It was a crazy week, dude. Dean Barry shits the bed by gouging Jackson's eye and kicking him in the sack. Definitely not good stuff. So it was a rough week for a lot of people gambling, but you know, we hit some of those violence bets. I'm really happy that they hit. And I got my Paloma here for tonight, you guys. Going to be a long night. We got a lot of work to do. So let me just get a sip here. Excellent. Yeah, we got my guy Papa Chuck in the room saying, damn, I thought I would be the first one in here. Must be the place to be on a Tuesday night. Oi! Yes, what's up, man? Brandon saying, let's fucking go. We got my guy Postman Picks MMA Mike saying, Uncle Weezy ready to shave some asses and stack flapjacks. Let's go, man. Let's do it. And then Mushroom saying, Uncle Weezy, oi, Smooth Jimmy, oi, once again. We got it. And we got my guy Grateful Dude in the room, ring a ding ding, supporting his Uncle Weezy with a donation to the show. Much, much appreciated, Grateful Dude. Saying, appreciate the stats. Thanks for betting on yourself. when he said thanks for betting on yourself, he's referring to the very special story time with Uncle Weezy I did a couple of months ago, you guys, talking about how I got to become a content creator in MMA and some of the struggles that I faced trying to find work out there in the corporate world after going back to get a second degree from college. If you haven't checked out that very special story time with Uncle Weezy, please do that. It's a great story, and I think you guys would enjoy it. But I really appreciate you, Grateful Dude, for supporting the show. Really appreciate the donation, brother. Thank you. Andy MG saying, "Oi, what's up, Weezy? We got a minus 2,500 favorite on the card. Holy smokes. Yeah, it's an unbettable line. But yeah, Romanov is that big of a favorite. Man, MMA betting has changed since I started, dude. I'll tell you that. Equity Sports Analytics in the room saying, oi, let's fucking go, Uncle Weezy. Let's go, EQ or ESA, Equity Sports Analytics. Check out that YouTube channel if you guys haven't already. My guy, the general in here, is taking notes. My guy, Lou Betcha, in here saying there will be tremendous fights on this card where some fighters will experience victory and some will experience the bitter taste of defeat. You know, as somebody that's of Greek descent mostly and has a really deep connection with a love of philosophy, boy, you can't argue with that statement that Lou Betcha just dropped down. That is some Socrates level thinking right there by my guy. Lou Betcha, shout out, brother. What's up, man? Postman Pick saying every fighter that is prepared for this moment, that preparation will show on Saturday night, bro. Good guys. Are busting balls. We got Paul Brassfield saying, for the strong shall rise and the weak shall fall. Oh my God, you guys are absolutely killing me, man. Keith Weaver saying, bring it on home, Weezy. Damn right, Keith Weaver. What's up, dude? Good to see you in here. We got Cuban Assassin saying, Weezy, Weez, let's get that cheddar. Word is even Johnny Depp called Keith Peterson and told him to stay off the sauce during fight week. That includes that Social Distortion vape pen too. Dude, you got to believe that, you know, Keith Peterson is a huge fan of Mike Ness from Social Distortion. I mean, the same tattoos, everything going there, a very similar voice almost. I mean, Mike could sing just a little bit better than Keith, I'm sure. But Keith's got his own band and he sings, man. Thanks for hanging out, Cuban Assassin. Papa Chuck saying, I think Lou Malnati's took Weezy hostage again. No chance, man. Not today, baby. We are starting on time today. We got MMA Code saying, oi. We got Kevin Atari saying, oi. And saying, new to the show, but thank you for all the ass shaving hits. Dude, I appreciate that, Kevin. It's good to have you here live, checking out the show, man. We appreciate you. We got Mushroom saying, asses of fire. Terrence and Phillip, that's one of my favorite movies, dude. They farted on each other constantly in that movie. My guy Monk in the room saying, what up, Weezy? What up, chat? Fat Collier and Chase Sherman week is upon us. It's hard not to be excited about that. And Paul Brassfield saying, pardon me, salute, Uncle Weezy. What's up, Paul? Good to see you here. Six Side Worldwide saying, oi, oi. What's up, man? 2 blocks of cheese on one card. Yeah, we got that, man. My guy Jarno checking in from Finland saying, here we go, best show of the week. Thanks for hanging out, Jarno. XBL on Twitch saying, Dodgers put me in the dirt tonight. Can't wait for Saturday fights. Excited to hear your breakdowns, Unc. I appreciate you, XBL. Let's get back that Dodgers money, man. Let's get it back. Dom209 saying, what up, Unc? Haircut comments last week on Stat Diggers was comedy. Yeah, man. There were some good ones. I've been using that. I've been stealing Grandpa Simpson's term, a haircut you can set your watch to, for a very long time. And there are some female fighters in this UFC that certainly got haircuts that you could absolutely set your watch to. Thanks for checking in, Dom. Appreciate you, brother. Blood Money MMA Bets saying, Weezy, what's up, bro? Great show as always. Always good to have you here, Blood Money. Always check out Blood Money's channel if you guys haven't yet. Like and subscribe, all that stuff. We got some great people in here, some sharp minds in this chat ready to chop it up today. David Nettles saying, Uncle Weezy is bringing the wagering wisdom to the masses. We appreciate what you do, my friend. I appreciate you hanging out, David. I appreciate the kind words. Thank you very much, man. DJ saying, I just hope both teams have fun. Boy, we can't ask for more than that, DJ. Ansab saying, elegant as always, Scarface style. Why, thank you, man. You know, I work real hard for this, all right? Who put all this shit together? Me. You know, it's right on Sav. Let's go, baby. Let's go. Burgundy Bet saying ass shaving is Romanov. The ass shaving of the year is Romanov, you guys. Romanov over Chase Sherman is the ass shaving of the year. I gave you that last week. It will be the ass shaving of the year again this week. But last week, the ass shaving of the year was anybody in DFS who had Romanov on their team or Chase Sherman, I guess. But Chase Sherman, you weren't expecting much out of. Romanov, you were expecting 100 points. But that is going to be the one of the year, but I got to do a little better than minus 2,500 for you guys. So you don't need me to tell you that Alexandr Romanov is probably going to win this fight. Looking like a Hugh Hefner OG. Nice fit, Weezy. Appreciate you, brother. We got Lou saying, if I lose this week, I may give in to the Paloma lifestyle. Hey, man, there's nothing wrong with that, dude. There's nothing wrong with that. Look at MMA Code. He knows, man. He knows. Dude, you guys, we got a lot of work to do, so let's get into it, man. Let's see if my guy Smooth Jimmy is ready to go here. I'm going to get one more sip of this Paloma, and then we're going to get to work. All right. Mushroom saying, Weezy, what is slower, a sundial or fat-ass Collier's metabolism? Dude, it's definitely a sundial because this is a choice for Jake Collier. All you have to do is go back and watch this guy as a middleweight to know that if he wanted to be athletic, if he wanted to be ripped, if he wanted to put in the work, he can absolutely do it. He's a great athlete, strong man, and a good fighter. You know, he just chose to put on the weight. And, you know, it might have been a good move for Jake. You know, I call him Fat Collier. I bust his balls. But you know what, man? At the end of the day, this sport is about making as much money as possible and then taking as little damage as possible. And Fat Collier has been up there in the heavyweight division where the skill level is just not the same as it is down there at 185. And guess what? He's winning fights. You know, he's finding that the guys are less skilled up there at heavyweight, and he's finding ways to win fights. And when he's winning fights, he's making money. He can order more pizzas. He can have more beer. He can get fat as shit. You know, but he's gonna keep winning fights if he keeps getting these good stylistic matchups up there. So, yeah, man. Pat Timber in the room saying Jordan, Linz, Puellis, let's go. They all hit and they all made it look fairly easy. Linz maybe not that easy, but goddamn Puellis with that transition to the knee bar. Shout out my guy Tim Troiano hitting a 50-1 Puellis by knee bar bet. That is some next level prop betting there, man, from my guy Tim Troiano. Shout out Tim Troiano. Shout out Narco Cop Chicago. Stand up, baby. And my guy and we pop a placid penis in the room saying, oi, what up, Unc? I'm back for some more action. I took a break from betting, picked up Pokemon, and ready to get back at it. Let's put the fucking Pokemon down. Let's pick up the razors, and let's shave these bookies' asses. What's up, Pat saying Arlovsky unanimous decision. Joe Bossy saying, what's up, Weezy? What's up, Joe? Let's see if we can find my guy Smooth Jimmy Apollo right 52% of the time and see if he's ready to join us on today's show. Because if he is, we can start breaking down this card from a statistical and tape study perspective here, give you guys some angles, find some ways to make some money off of these bookies, and let's get it started, you guys. First fight of the night. Look at that professional there up on the screen. Just going to let you drink in Mr. Smooth Jimmy Apollo and that beautiful smile and that lock of the week. Look at what a fucking professional he is, man. All right. Let's go. Let's go, guys. We're going to start off with the very first fight of the night. Carlos Candelario against Tatsuro Taira. Man, when I say those two names, it makes me feel like Harry Carey back in the day, trying to pronounce names he had no chance to pronounce. He'd be like, this one is going to be between Carlos Candelario and Tatsuro Taira, who's all the way from Japan, Tony. I don't know what they do over there, but evidently they like baseball. But they like to fight too. Japan loves the combat lifestyle. They love being warriors. And we got a very young man here in Taira. We've also got something here. Ring a ding ding, you guys. Andy MG, friend of the show, donating to his Uncle Weezy. Much love, brother. He says, let's make the bookies scared again. Appreciate you, Unc. Let's make these bookies scared again. Let's give you all the information that they think that you shouldn't be able to get for free just by watching YouTube. Well, we're going to give it to you for free. We're going to give you all this information, and together we can take a lot of money off of this bookies, you guys. Thank you, Andy MG, for donating to the show. So first of all, let me see if they have updated Tatsuro Taira's reach. And they have not, and they don't even have height on UFC stats. But Taira, 8 years younger, you guys. He's 22 years old. Candelario, 30. We got a 1-inch height advantage for Candelario, and I don't know who has the reach advantage here due to the fact that UFC stats has not even provided a reach measurement for Taira. Candelario, the southpaw. Taira, the orthodox fighter. Underdog BJJ for Candelario. The Paristra in Okinawa for Tatsuro Taira. So we see the experience is very similar, you guys. Taira, one more fight, 23 more minutes in the cage for Candelario. About 4 more years, 3.5 more years as a pro for Candelario. And 2 more UFC level fights, but they're contender series fights. But still, he's seeing better competition in those contender series fights than what Taira is seeing on the regional scene in Shooto in Japan. When we look at the finish stats for these guys, we're going to see Candelario has got finished 5 of his 8 wins inside the distance, 3 of them by submission, 2 by knockout. Taira has finished 8 of his 10 wins inside the distance, 5 by submission, 3 by knockout. Neither one of these guys has ever been finished, but there's only 1 combined loss between the 2 of them. So we don't have much in the way of stats here. So let me just talk about what I saw on tape. Candelario, in terms of the striking, is a Golden Gloves guy. So he's a good boxer. Nice hands, fast hands. Taira is kind of low volume with the striking. I mean, everything looks pretty good. Everything seems to check out. He's very young, but he's kind of low volume on the feet. He can hit hard. He can throw with power, but he can also be a little bit low volume at times and kind of stand in front of his opponents. I kind of feel like whenever this fight is standing, Candelario is going to have a really good chance to win minutes. However, when you watch the tape on Taira, he's very good in the grappling exchanges. Now, the takedowns, the wrestling is okay in my opinion, but when he does get a dominant position on somebody, he stays there. And he can get in dominant positions without necessarily having to get a takedown. If the fight gets a little bit chaotic, he can take your back standing. He can shoot takedowns. He can get body locks. He's Japanese, so you got to just assume that this guy's got some good judo. Everybody in Japan, knows judo. It's something that they teach in high school, for Christ's sake. So, look, this guy is going to have some trips, sweeps, reaps, throws, that kind of stuff, some body lock takedowns. Candelario has shown not good wrestling defense, you guys. In only 2 fights, he's been taken down 12 times. 47% takedown defense. He's getting taken down 6 times for 15 minutes. He's having 2.5 submission attempts against for 15 minutes. And the control time isn't correct because the first fight against Ronaldo Candido in the contender series does not have control time stats available. But this guy was wearing Candido for more than half the fight. So the control time that Candelario is allowing is probably in close to 40%. I mean, it's not 7%. So for a guy like Taira to be so good on the ground and so good in the grappling exchanges and so slick there, to have an opponent that just has a boxing background that doesn't seem to want to stop takedowns is a good matchup for Taira. But that being said, Candelario is a brown belt, and he's been put in some bad situations on the ground, but I've never really seen him be in trouble of losing the fight down there. He's a guy who seems to thrive getting out of bad positions and either reversing from bottom position or just getting up. And when he does get on top, you guys, the ground and pound is sick. It's really good. So I could see Candelario potentially even getting a takedown of his own here if Taira's defensive wrestling isn't very good. And it's hard to know if it is. I mean, you watch the regional scene footage on Taira, and here let's talk about the strength of schedule, you guys, because it's important. We haven't seen Taira yet in the UFC, but he's been fighting in Shooto, and he's been fighting experienced guys. This guy's 6-2 in some promotion called VTJ that I've never heard of. That was his last fight at the end of 2021 in November. And then Shooto before that, we got Ryuya Fukuda 12-5-1. Yoshiro Maeda 38-18-3. So I mean, like, you know, that's impressive that a guy that was 21 years old beat a guy who's got, you know, more than twice as many fights as Taira had years on this earth at the time. So it's impressive, but I mean, who the fuck is Yoshiro Maeda beaten though? You know, I mean, like, he's got 38 wins. I'm willing to bet that not a lot of them are great wins. Kiyotaka Shimizu 24-13-3. Jared Almazan 1-3. Yamato Takagi 6-1. Takahiro Kahori 13-14-2. So it's kind of hard to know where this guy is at. I don't even know how I did that, but Candelario here has wins over Miguel Restrepo 5-4, Ronaldo Candido 6-0 on the Contender Series. Candido is Jose Aldo's jiu-jitsu coach. Tim Wheeler in CES 1-2, Miguel Restrepo again. Roosevelt Archie 0-1, Louis Ashkar 2-0, Gutierrez 1-1, Baker 1-1. And then we've got 5 fights as an amateur for Candelario, and Taira had some fights as an amateur as well, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, look at all that. So, you know, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So yeah, I mean, like, this guy Taira is a legit prospect. He's very young. He's an excellent grappler. He's fairly well-rounded, good conditioning, and he can take a punch too. So I see why he's a favorite. It's a good stylistic matchup for him because he's so good on the ground. He's so good at winning minutes there and finishing fights there. And Candelario is so good at getting taken down and being put in bad positions that I think Taira, as long as he doesn't gas out here and as long as he doesn't catch a big shot in the feet, should be able to win enough minutes to win this fight. However, I think one of the interesting bets here is neither of these guys has ever been finished, and I think that it's going to be a close fight, and that we've seen Candelario put in bad spots by, you know, like veteran jiu-jitsu black belts and be able to, you know, really survive and do pretty well there. The fight goes to decision here, you guys, is sitting around minus or plus 110. And this is a flyweight fight, so about, you know, 57% of flyweight fights do go to decision. But in this particular case, I don't know if either one of these guys is good enough of a finisher to finish the other one. And getting a fight goes at plus money for a flyweight fight, I think, is a pretty good deal. I'm going to be taking a look at that, and I'm going to be taking a look at minus 115-ish on the over 2.5 here as well. But the pick is going to be Tatsuro Taira by decision, but I can't recommend betting him at minus 250 or parlaying him. This is his first fight outside of Japan. He's only 22 years old. We don't know how his wrestling is going to translate at this level. We don't know if he's going to have an adrenaline dump in there. We don't know what the nerves are going to look like. But everything else checks out. Good amateur record, great grappling, good conditioning. And Candelario is well-rounded and tough as well. Been in some wars. So I think it's going to be a really good fight. I think it's going to be close, but the pick is going to be Tatsuro Taira, you guys, by decision. We got my guy Sergio Zabute in the room with another donation. Ring a ding ding, you guys. Thank you so much for supporting the show. I appreciate each and every one of you that does that, whether you do or not. But yeah, thank you guys for hanging out on a Tuesday night. 40 of you in here right now. Appreciate each and every one of you. Let's get to this next fight, though. It's going to be Gina Mazany versus the Shanimal, Shanna Young. So Shanna Young, 2 years younger, an inch taller. Mazany with 3 inches of reach. Mazany's a southpaw. Shanna Young, orthodox, fighting out of Knoxville Martial Arts. I mean, well, sorry, I misspelled Marshall. And no, we got Gina Mazany training out of Glory MMA. I don't know why that says Extreme Couture. She is not in Vegas anymore. She is at Glory MMA with James Krause and Tim Elliott. So both of these ladies fighting out of the United States. Similar experience numbers here. Gina, one more fight, but it's about 70 more minutes in the pro cage for Shanna Young because her fight's average time is 13, and for Gina, it's 6.5 minutes. but Gina's been doing this about 7 years longer. It's going to be, oh shit, I'm not even putting up my banners for you guys. I've got these beautiful banners with the lines. So Tatsuro Taira, you guys, was minus 240. Candelario plus 205, and the fight doesn't go to decision there with minus 140. And then here's the information on Mazany Young. So Mazany, 4 more UFC level fights, 27 more minutes in the UFC cage. And in terms of finishing numbers, Mazany has finished 5 of her 7 career wins, and Shanna Young has finished wait a second. So 72% of 7 wins would be 5. Yeah. And then this is 57%. So 4 of Shanna Young's 7 wins coming inside the distance. Mazany finished in 4 of 5 losses. Shanna Young finished in 2 of 4 losses. So yeah, in 9 combined losses, you guys, we've got 4 plus 2, 6 of them coming inside the distance. That's a pretty interesting number there. In terms of the striking numbers, Mazany lands more than she absorbs. She's got about 50% striking accuracy. She's landed a knockdown in 7 UFC fights, and she's been knocked down once as well. Yeah, decent striking ratio here, landing a little bit more than she absorbs. Shanna Young is absorbing about 2 more significant strikes per minute than she lands, which isn't good. 43% striking defense is not good. 53% striking accuracy, a little bit better. She's getting out-volumed by her opponents as well. In terms of the numbers that we see here in the grappling, Mazany's fights are taking place in control time positions more than 2/3 of the time. So Mazany's striking really doesn't matter so much here. But in this particular fight, I think Gina might want to stand a little bit longer here. She gassed out so bad against Priscilla Cachoeira. Boy, that was really tough to watch because she was winning that fight and winning it handily. Mike Beltran stood the fight up. I didn't agree with the stand-up, and that changed, because when the fight got stood up with about 2.5 minutes left in the second round, Mazany was done. She was completely exhausted. She shot takedowns after that, but Priscilla started stopping them because Gina just didn't have the energy to complete them. So I think that if Gina Mazany wants to win this fight, she's got to be a little more careful about when she uses her wrestling entries because she's not going to be in danger on the feet here. Shanna Young's striking is okay at best. So Gina's going to have to be very, very careful, in my opinion, how she maintains her energy, how she paces herself in this fight. Because if she goes out there and tries to get 5 takedowns in round 1 and just gasses herself out, she could lose this fight. Because anybody, when they're tired, is easy pickings, especially at this level. And Gina put herself in a really bad position last time out against Cachoeira because Cachoeira is so dangerous on the feet. She wasn't really able to not wrestle every time it was on the feet. She had to really be careful about standing in front of Priscilla. And it only took a couple minutes standing for Priscilla to put her out. So Shanna, 0 for 2 on her takedowns, and she's been taken down 7 times in 3 fights. It's not good. 40% control time against. She's showing a lot of the weaknesses that you would want to see if you're betting on Gina Mazany. But let's talk about something here. The elephant in the room. Gina Mazany is huge for 125, you guys. Absolutely huge. And she's had a couple of fights there. She got the win over Rachel Ostovich, which is basically meaningless. And then, she had the Cachoeira fight, and she completely died out there after about after about 7 minutes. So the Cachoeira fight only lasted 591 seconds. Avila knocks her out in 22 seconds. Chason knocks her out in 109 seconds, and Landsberg beats her by decision. When Gina Mazany wins fights, she's out-controlling her opponents. See, here against Ostovich, she out-controls her 413-11. And here against Wu Yanan, the other win, she out-controls her 492-238. In every other fight, she's had problems out controlling her opponents, except for in the Cachoeira fight. That stand-up was huge. If she hadn't have been stood up, she might have been able to ride out the rest of that round on top and then recover and then get another takedown in the third and win the fight. But Mazany really does depend on out-controlling her opponent, and that door is open, you guys. So I think Gina Mazany can win this fight, but we got to remember, all these fights, 135, then she moves down to 125. She gets the win against Ostovich, but she completely gasses out against Cachoeira. I think Mazany's killing herself to make 125. And Shanna Young, we haven't seen her there yet in the UFC. In her 3 fights, they've all been at 135. And when you look at like the picture of Shanna Young on Tapology, she's got a 6-pack already. So I don't know where this extra 10 pounds that she's going to cut is going to be coming from. So this is a fight to me, you guys, that you absolutely have to wait. Look at that. Look at that fucking 6-pack on Shanna Young. Where are the 10 pounds coming from? Now, Shanna has fought at 125 before. Back in 2019 here against Miranda Maverick, that was a flyweight fight. This was a flyweight fight. Against Sarah Alpar, that was bantamweight. Anastasia Bruce, flyweight. Jessica Borga, bantamweight. So she's been bouncing back and forth. So even if you're on the Mazany side, I think you really do have to wait, you guys, to see how she looks on the scale. You really want to see Gina Mazany being one of the first 10 people to weigh in. You want to see her smiling on that scale. You want to see that she's had the good weight cut, because if she's had a good weight cut and her conditioning holds up, she's probably better everywhere than Shanna. So, but the problem is that we just can't really be confident. I mean, look at Pat, what he's saying. Women's MMA, it means something, you guys. Women's MMA is tricky. So we got to see these ladies on the scale before we commit. If Gina Mazany looks good on the scales, I think she's going to easily cruise to a 30-27 victory, or potentially even get Shanna out of there late. But if she doesn't, I think that this fight is going to be very live to finish inside the distance one way or another, because if Gina death gasses like she did against Cachoeira, and that was not a particularly high-paced fight, she's going to be in big trouble here. The pick, though, is definitely going to be Gina Mazany. But what I do like, you guys, we talked about this. I'm always interested when I'm looking for fight doesn't go to decision bets to see people that lose inside the distance. And Shanna's been stopped in 2 of her 3 UFC losses. And Gina Mazany has been finished in 4 of her 5 UFC losses. So that's 6 of 7 or 6 of 8 combined losses coming inside the distance, 75% probability, right? And then we look at the line here for fight doesn't go to decision, and it's plus 120. It's even plus 145 on Caesars. I think that's very interesting, you guys, especially if either one of these ladies looks like shit on the scale and they had a bad weight cut. 7 or 6 of 8 combined losses inside the distance, and these ladies are above average finishers as well. So very interesting spot there at plus money that could potentially be a good bet, you guys. But the pick is going to be Gina Mazany. However, I might switch that pick if she looks like shit on the scales. Next fight, though. Natan Levy versus Mike Breeden. All right, let me just get this banner up here for you guys. We got Natan Levy. The best that we can find on him on Bet Online right now is minus 182. Mike Breeden coming back at plus 157. The fight doesn't go to decision. Plus money at plus 110 here. So let me get back here. Let me see. All right. We've got Mike Breeden 3 years older here. Levy 3 years younger. It's going to be 1 inch of height for Breeden, 1 inch of reach for Levy. It's a southpaw for Levy. Breeden's an orthodox fighter. Another Glory MMA guy for Breeden here, and Syndicate MMA for Natan Levy. Breeden's got twice as many pro fights. He's got about 35 more minutes in the pro cage and about a year more as a pro. And they both have 2 UFC level fights, a few more minutes in the cage for Natan Levy. And he's got a win while Breeden doesn't. So Breeden has finished 8 of his 10 wins inside the distance by knockout. He's never subbed anybody. Natan Levy's finished 3 of his 6 wins inside the distance, 3 of them by sub, 3 of them by decision. And Breeden has been finished in 2 of his 4 losses, Natan Levy has never been finished. We don't have much for striking stats here. Levy lands 2.5, absorbs 1.7. Those are good numbers. Over 60% striking defense is good. Never been knocked down, never knocked anybody down. Throws more volume than his opponents. Levy's a good striker, you guys. He's good everywhere, actually. Very well-rounded fighter. Karate base, kung fu base. Throws a lot of weird-ass kicks. Can maintain distance well. Throws with power. Breeden is kind of like a pressure fighter, mostly throwing low leg kicks and hands. He throws a lot of volume. He comes down the pipe with what he throws. He's got good durability. He walks forward, and he tries to out-volume you and work you with the boxing and kind of like not, he tries to stay in boxing range, and he does love his low leg kicks. So what's interesting here is Levy likes to grapple. So we see in his 2 fights, they're taking place in control time positions about 2/3 of the time. 35% control time for, 27% control time against. We see that his takedowns are excellent and his takedown defense is not good. Mike Breeden has attempted 4 takedowns in 2 fights. He hasn't gotten any of them, and his fights have been standing about 94% of the time. Mike Breeden, 81% takedown defense in the UFC. He's stopped 9 of 11 takedowns, and he's only been controlled for 2.5% of his UFC career. So that would be like maybe 30 seconds on those 2 takedowns and on those 11 takedown attempts. So what's tricky about this fight, you guys, is that Breeden's good at keeping fights standing. Is he going to be better than Natan Levy on the feet? No. But if Natan Levy can't take down Breeden and Breeden walks forward and pressures Levy, this fight can look a lot closer than what the line is telling you it's going to look like. Because Breeden does have very good takedown defense. He digs that underhook, he gets his ass back, and he circles out. So if Levy's unable to get this fight to the ground, if Mike Breeden walks forward and pressures him and walks through the shots that Levy is throwing, and let's keep in mind that even though Levy's fought some okay competition, he's never knocked anybody out. So he's never even knocked anybody down in the UFC that I can remember. And I don't remember him getting any knockdowns on the regional scene either. So this could get a lot greasier. But I think Levy's the better distance striker. I think Levy's the bigger guy. I think Levy's the much better grappler here and the much more aggressive wrestler. I just think that he's the better prospect. He's younger. He's bigger. He's more well-rounded. He's more dangerous in the striking. He's very dangerous on the ground, and he can push a pace that he can maintain grappling for a full 15 minutes. So I think Levy's better everywhere. It's just the problem is that I think that Breeden can make this a very dirty fight. I'm going to pick Natan Levy to win this fight, and I'm going to pick him to win it by decision. But I wouldn't be surprised if Mike Breeden made this really dirty and made it really close. And it makes me very nervous about putting Natan Levy in any parlays or feeling too safe about him here. Breeden hasn't shown much, but he is like 3 things. He's durable, he's a scrapper, and he does hit hard, you guys. He does have good boxing, and he can be first. He is straight down the middle with his punches. So, if he fights the right game plan here and he has a good pressure style, walks forward, and is able to be durable and walk through Levy's strikes, I think that this could be very close, but I still got to pick Natan Levy by decision, you guys. All right, next fight is going to be Gabe Green versus Yohan Lainesse. So we got Green checking in here as a moderate favorite here, -140. Lainesse +120. Fight doesn't go to decision, juiced up to -205. So let's go. Very similar in age, these 2 prospects here. 28 for Green, 29 for Lainesse. It's Lainesse who's the much bigger guy. 3 inches of height, 3 inches of reach. Gabe Green fighting out of both stances. Lainesse is an orthodox fighter. Sub-fighter MMA for Gabe Green. Brazilian top team Canada for Yohan Lainesse. Green with the experience advantage. He's got 5 more pro fights, 35 more minutes in the cage, a little over 2 more years as a pro, and he's got 2 UFC level fights and 30 minutes in the UFC cage, while Lainesse will be making his UFC debut here. He does have a Contender Series fight, a win over Justin Burlinson, who was a very good prospect. For some reason, I missed that there were stats for that fight, so I don't have them. I'll update it later on. But Green has got a 90% finish rate, and Yohan Lainesse has got a 75% finish rate. So 15 of 18 of these guys' combined wins have come inside the distance. They're both killers. That's an over 85% finish rate. Gabe Green has been finished in 2 of his 3 losses, both by knockout. And that's how Yohan Lainesse finishes fights, is by knockout. But Green is pretty durable. I mean, when we saw him in the UFC against Philip Rowe and Daniel Rodriguez, this guy can certainly take a punch. The guys who finished him, I don't remember who one of the guys was, but there was footage on it. It was just a weird, he got caught with something really weird, and then the guy just swarmed and finished him. The other guy to do it was Jalen the Tarantula Turner. We know how tough Jalen Turner is. So, yeah, 2 of 3 losses combined coming inside the distance and 15 of 18 wins coming inside the distance. So this fight does have some violence written all over it. But, you know, Green is really well-rounded, you guys. He throws a ton of volume. He pressures his opponents. He's got excellent grappling. He's got great sweeps. He's great on top, and he's really threatening from the bottom. Goes for submissions from the bottom, gets sweeps, got good ground and pound when he's on top. Gabe Green is very, very capable on the ground and on the feet. He's more experienced, but it's going to be Lainesse who's the bigger dude and the more powerful dude. This guy finishes fights. When we look at Lainesse's record here, we're going to see a lot of early finishes, you guys. So Yohan Lainesse, 8-0, the Canadian prospect here. Burlinson, round 1. Cuts, round 2. Rafati, 14 seconds of round 1. That was a flying knee, and that was spectacular. Connor Dixon, 4:30 of round 1. Sean Mead, 3:14 of round 1. And then we got a retirement, 5 minutes of round 1. And then he's 1-1 as an amateur, and his win as an amateur came of 21 seconds around 1. But he does have 2 decision wins over a 1-0 Burton Desclus and over a 4-0 Troy Green. I was able to watch that Troy Green fight. Green did wrestle him a little bit and have a little bit of success, but yeah, Lainesse showed that he could go the full 3. But the thing is, you guys, Lainesse is very front-loaded. He can grapple a little bit. He is well-rounded. But if this guy doesn't get you out of there in the first round, you see in the second round that the mouth is wide open. Now, he'll slow down a lot and he'll throw a lot less volume. But when he does throw, he doesn't know any other way but to throw 100% power into all of his strikes. So he's got a serious pacing problem. And that's going to be a problem against a guy like Gabe Green. Look, if you don't get Gabe Green out of there in the first round, and you're Yohan Lainesse, chances are you're fucked. I mean, fucked. Because when your mouth is wide open against a guy like Gabe Green, who pushes a pace for a full 15 minutes, he's going to get broken. So the way I'm seeing this fight shape up is it's either going to be Yohan Lainesse round 1, or it's Gabe Green after that. So at Gabe Green at minus 140, I'm completely fine fading him and saying, you know what, let everybody else pay 140. If he makes it through that first round and Lainesse has any success, I can get Green at a much better price. And I will be very, very confident that Yohan Lainesse will not look nearly as good in the second round as he did in the first. And he'll look even worse in the third round. Only 8 professional fights, you guys. UFC debut, potential adrenaline dump, and he's got a serious pacing problem because he's only trying to take your head off. So this is a fight that's very easy for me to break down. Gabe Green has fought the much better brand of competition. He's beaten the much better brand of competition. He's got way better conditioning. He's got way better grappling, and he is durable. However, he's been knocked out twice, and it was early. So this is going to be Yohan Lainesse early, Gabe Green late. I like a Yohan Lainesse first round prop. I like a Gabe Green third round prop. And Gabe Green, let's just keep in mind that the average record of the guy Gabe Green has faced in the UFC is 4.5 wins and 0.5 losses with a 9-1 win-to-loss ratio. The guys that Gabe Green have fought, Phil Rowe and Daniel Rodriguez, have a combined record of 10-2. So when you take out the win by Rodriguez out of his record and the loss out of Rowe's record, 9-1. So Gabe Green is 1-1 against guys that are really top level UFC competition already. And he gave a great account of himself in both of those fights. The one weakness that he did show, in my opinion, was being able to be controlled on the ground. Gabe got 2 takedowns, but he was taken down 3 times and controlled for 20.5% of his UFC career. So I like Gabe Green's grappling. I like Gabe Green's conditioning and durability. I like the fact that he's more experienced, and I like the fact that he's faced the better brand of competition here. But I'm terrified of Yohan Lainesse's power early in this fight. And the Burlinson win is very good. So I think that what I'm going to do for this fight is I'm probably going to have a small bet on Lainesse round 1. I'm probably also going to have a small bet on Gabe Green round 3. And then I'm going to be looking to live bet this. I think that if Gabe Green gets out of that first round and he's not nearly dead, and Lainesse fights the way that I anticipate him to fight, which is not technical at all, throwing 100% power into every punch. Everything is looping and technically piss poor, but if it hits you, you're fucked. You're going to sleep. So, some of these guys that aren't technical and they're just throwing bombs, it really doesn't matter that they're not technical. If they catch you, you're fucked anyway. So, and that's how it's going to be for Green. It's not like this guy has never been finished in the first round. So, like, we gotta anticipate that it's a possibility. But I still have to go with Green's experience, his toughness, his grappling pedigree, his conditioning, and his strength of schedule here. So I got to pick Gabe Green, but I'm going to be looking to get Gabe Green at plus money after round 1 is over. Next fight, you guys, one we won't have to spend any time on. Alexandr Romanov at minus 2,500 will be shaving the ass. Chase Sherman at plus 800. This is just not worth even talking about. This is going to be an ass shaving of the biggest magnitude. We saw Sherman get taken down by Fat Collier, you guys, and submitted. A guy in Fat Collier. Let's just take a quick look at Fat Collier here. A guy with 13 wins and 31% by sub. So that's 4 subs, but he only had 3 prior to that, and that was his first UFC submission ever. So yeah, Fat Collier takes down Chase Sherman, and a guy with 3 career takedowns before that fight in the UFC takes down Chase Sherman and submits him. So Alexandr Romanov is 10 times the wrestler that Chase Sherman, that the guy that Sherman shaved his ass is. So, this is going to be Romanov. It's going to be Romanov all day. He'll probably get it done in the very first round. Please don't bet Alexandr Romanov at minus 2,500. Please don't put him in your parlays. And you really shouldn't even be betting the under 1.5 or any of the round props on him. It's all so juiced that in the long run, there's no possible way to make money on it. So stay away from this fight. Just enjoy Chase Sherman. He's going to be the new jobber of the UFC. We were talking about this with my guy Lou Betya earlier today, where, in the old wrestling days, you had the guys that would come in there and get their ass shaved by the good wrestlers, like Jose Luis Rivera and Iron Mike Sharp. And, these jobbers that would come out there and lose to everybody. Well, that's going to be Chase Sherman's role here in the UFC for the next 4 fights, is they're going to put him in there against good prospects who are going to look even better when they take down a one-dimensional guy like Sherman and shave his ass. So Romanov by murder. Next fight, you guys, Daniel Lacerda against Francisco Figueiredo. We've got minus 130 for Lacerda. We got plus 110 for Figueiredo. The fight doesn't go to decision, sitting at minus 120. So we've got Lacerda is 7 years younger than Francisco Figueiredo here. He's only 25 years old. These guys are the same height. It's a 1-inch reach advantage for Lacerda. He fights out of both stances. Figueiredo is a southpaw fighting out of Team Figueiredo, and it's the ATS team for Daniel Lacerda. 5 more fights for Figueiredo, despite the fact that he's 7 years older. About 50 more minutes of cage time, and about 7.5 more years as a pro. So, Francisco Figueiredo fights about once a year, maybe a little more than that, while Daniel Lacerda fights about 2.5 times a year. So Lacerda's younger. He's more active. He's got a 1-inch reach advantage here. But it's Figueiredo who's got one more fight at the UFC level and about 24 minutes in the UFC cage. In terms of how these guys finish fights, Lacerda has finished 100% of his wins inside the distance, 6 by submission, 5 by knockout, and he's been finished in both of his losses. So in all 13 Daniel Lacerda fights, he's never seen the bell. Francisco Figueiredo, 18 fights, 12 wins, 4 losses, a draw, a no contest. He's got a 83% finish rate, so he's finished 10 of his 12 wins inside the distance, and he's been finished in 2 of his 4 losses. So 4 out of 6 combined losses coming inside the distance for these two guys, and 21 out of 23 wins coming inside the distance for these two guys. So even though flyweights are finishing only about 43% of the time, it feels like this one should finish way more than 43% of the time when you just look at the aggregates, you guys. In terms of the UFC stats, we don't have much here. Lacerda got killed by Molina, but had a really good first round. Figueiredo, look, dude, this is terrible. He throws 3.27 significant strike attempts per minute, and his opponents are throwing 7.27. So he's super low volume. Look, I have a bet on this fight. I got like a 50% profit boost. So I took Lacerda earlier at minus 110 because I think he's just kind of like the more dangerous fighter here. But the problem is that we've got 13 fights for Lacerda and we've got 18 for Figueiredo. And if you want to watch tape on these guys, there's like 4 fights available. We don't even know what these guys look like when they fight because there's no information on them. We're missing large swaths of information here. We got no tape on Lacerda. We got no tape on Figueiredo. So on Lacerda, we see some of these guys, like these are regional scene fights that, where he was probably fighting in front of 20 people, and then he gets a fight in Shutu here where he gets a win over Yarley Martins, who's 6-4. The rest of these wins, I don't know who these guys are. Then he loses to Edelsu Alves, 9-2. He had an injury in that fight. A win over Augusto Silva, 4-2-1. A win over Francisco Martin, 13-12. Rodrigo Serafian, experienced guy, 32 fights, but journeyman with a 20-11 record, knocks him out in the first round. And then Molina, after round 1, he goes balls to the wall, has an adrenaline dump, and then he gets. Molina lands a straight right, drops him on his ass, and finishes him. So, Lacerda is definitely the guy that's going to be coming out trying to finish this fight right away, while Figueiredo's nickname is the Sniper, and he is that. He's just super low volume, and he's trying to catch you with one big shot. So I like the fight doesn't go to decision here. I think that De Silva should win this fight, but there's no fucking information on either one of these guys. De Silva's young. We don't know if he's going to be good at this level. At least we know that Figueiredo's had a couple of fights and that he's in the gym with guys that are probably better than the guys that De Silva are in the gym with at Team ATS, in comparison to Francisco getting work in with his brother, who's the champion, So, I'm going to go with De Silva here, but with very little confidence. I think the fight doesn't go to decision, you guys, is a bet that you have to make here. I think Daniel Da Silva, round 1, is a really interesting spot. And then I think that if Da Silva doesn't get it done in round 1, you can live bet Francisco Figueiredo, because we've never seen this guy Silva really go more than 6 minutes in his career. So I think it's a pretty easy fight to bet, but it's also pretty easy to say, don't get over invested in this fight, because we don't have any tape on either one of these guys. And, frankly, both of these guys could completely suck and not be UFC level, because even when we look at Figueiredo, this guy's brother is the champion of the world. And then you look at these guys who Figueiredo's beaten, and it's like, who the hell are these guys? Jerome Rivera, he's got a draw against Eduardo Sosa and a loss against Eduardo Sosa, a guy I've never heard of. Wins over Manuel dos Santos, Vitor Leandro, 6-12. Chris Willian, 1-1. Fabricio Saraf, 12-1 by decision. Loses to Luis Nogueira, John Lineker. He's got a win over Anderson dos Santos, but not that Anderson dos Santos. It's one you've never heard of, who's like 4-10. And then you look at, he's got a win over somebody named Victor Badboy. That could be something. Maybe Victor Badboy is just like a really bad boy, and we're like, holy shit, he beat that. I mean, that guy's bad, and he beat him. So, maybe that was a good win, but I've never fucking heard of Victor Badboy. So, this is something I don't want to be confident in. I want to take either of these guys by their best win condition if possible. Silva round 1, maybe Figueiredo by live bet after round 1 if De Silva has another adrenaline dump and sucks after 5 minutes, which is certainly possible. But we just don't have enough tape, you guys. So I'm staying away from this one. Like I said, I put a bet in, but because it's got a 50% profit boost, it's untracked. And I got De Silva at plus 130. I'm fine with that because he's minus 130. But other than that, you guys, I got to stay away from this one. But I'm going to pick Daniel Da Silva by round 1 knock, or round 1 submission, we'll say. We'll move on to the next one here, as we've got now we got a good one now here. Jotko against Meerschaert. This is very interesting stylistic matchup. Much better to break down, and we got a shit ton of tape on both of these guys. So let's talk about it. Jotko's 2 years younger. They're the same height. They're the same reach, and they're both southpaws. Jotko fighting out of ATT, Rufus Sport for Meerschaert. So 20 more fights for Meerschaert, but only 5 more minutes in the pro cage. 3.5 more years as a pro for Meerschaert. Both of these guys have 15 UFC level fights, and it's Jotko who's got 80 more minutes in the cage because Meerschaert's a killer be killed fighter, and Jotko's the opposite of that. So we got Jotko with a 30% finish rate as a pro and a 10% finish rate in the UFC. So yeah, this guy is the definition of a decisionator. He has no power and he has no killer instinct. He is strictly trying to win minutes. And there's nothing wrong with that. You got to love betting on guys like that because they're not going to fight stupid. And Jotko just doesn't do that. He doesn't make mistakes in the cage. And that's why Jotko's 10-5 at the UFC level, despite the fact that he's not really good at anything. He's not plus anywhere, except for maybe in takedown defense and fight IQ and game planning and just fighting to his opponent's weaknesses. Those are the things that he does well. But his striking, okay. His grappling, okay. His durability, okay. There's really nothing special about this guy. But what is special about him is that he fights fucking smart. He doesn't make mistakes. He's like a chess player out there. So there's really a lot to be said for Krzystzof Jotko in terms of winning the fights that he should be winning, and even winning some fights that he shouldn't be winning against lower IQ fighters because, they leave doors open for him to win minutes when he shouldn't be able to. So yeah, Jotko, 30% finish rate, 10% finish rate in the UFC. Gerald Meerschaert has a 94% finish rate in 34 professional wins, you guys. And in 9 UFC wins, a 100% finish rate. But Meerschaert has been finished in 4 of his 6 UFC losses and in 78% of his 14 losses. So 11 of 14 losses inside the distance for Meerschaert. 3 of 5 for Jotko. So 11 and 3 is 14. 14 out of 19 of these guys combined losses coming inside the distance just below 75%. That'd be like minus 300 for a fight doesn't go to decision if you were just to base it off of the losses. So very interesting there. Striking numbers. Jotko is landing 2.92 and absorbing 2.24. So it's about a plus 0.7 significant strike differential. 41% accuracy. He's gotten 2 knockdowns in 15 fights. He's been knocked down 2 times in 15 fights. Not much power, pretty durable, pretty good at not getting hit, and out-voluming his opponents by almost 2 significant strike attempts per minute. Meerschaert kind of throws big stuff on the feet. He's absorbing more than he lands. His opponents throw more than he does, but he's got 2 knockdowns in 15 fights, and he's been knocked down 3 times. So these guys have similar knockdown for numbers and knockdown against numbers. Jotko will probably be the minute winner on the feet here and on the cage. And Jotko can win minutes on the ground, but this is the key number here, you guys. Jotko has had almost 80 takedowns shot against him in 15 UFC fights. So he's seeing about a little over 5, about 5 1/3 takedown attempts against per fight. So he's seeing a lot of grappling heavy attacks. And he's only allowed 13 takedowns. And he's been controlled about 22% of his UFC career, which would be about 40 minutes on those 13 takedowns. So when you do take him down, you can control him. But he does have 83.5% takedown defense, and he's been very good at keeping fights on the feet when he wants them there. Meerschaert is taking place in control time positions over 50% of the time. He's getting his takedowns at a 42% clip, getting 2.42 per 15 minutes. And then when he gets the fight to the ground, he's trying to sub you. 2.01 submission attempts for 15 minutes. This guy has got 24. It's a lot of wins by submission, you guys. He's got 8 just in the UFC. And he's got in the 20s when it comes to... Here, let's look real quick. Let's find Meerschaert's sub numbers, because I think it's 24 or 23 career wins by submission for Meerschaert. So this is just a guy you don't want to be on the ground with, period. If you can avoid it, keep that fight standing for 100% of the fight, because it's going to be a lot easier to not get submitted when you're on the... Yeah. So we've got 26 wins by submission out of 34 for Meerschaert, and 6 by knockout. So only 2 decision wins for Meerschaert in 34 wins. And he's been finished in 11 of his 14 losses. So, yeah, it's going to be Meerschaert trying to get this fight to the ground. Jotko is probably going to have success keeping it standing. And if he does, Jotko is going to pick him apart from the outside, throw more volume, and probably win some minutes up against the cage. Just make it a really dirty fight. But the last win for Jotko was against Serkunov, who had a really easy time just kind of, and he had an easy time just keeping the fight standing. Serkunov got him down once. Jotko got back up, grabbed the fence a couple of times. He did what he needed to do to keep the fight standing. And, you know, Serkunov, like Meerschaert, is just a guy that has a seriously hard time winning minutes with his striking, and that should be the same case here. And then when we look at the strength of schedule, you guys, very similar numbers. 1.41 ratio for Meerschaert, 1.31 for Jotko, but Jotko's fighting the more experienced competition with 9.07 total fights compared to 7.07 for Meerschaert. And the wins are better for Jotko here. He's got a 1.09 ratio in his wins, but 7.3 total fights. And here's the thing about Meerschaert, a 1.25 ratio in his wins, but only 4 total fights for the guys that Meerschaert is beating. So I wanted to highlight this to you guys. Meerschaert has never beaten anybody with more than 9 UFC fights total, and really barely ever beats anybody with a winning record. Stoltzfus 1-3. Muradov, a big win at 3-1. Fabinski's 3-3. Win 2-2, Giles 5-4, Pachota 2-3, Spicely 2-5, Jane's 2-2, and Gigliotti 0-2. So if you throw out the Muradov win, and then you talk about the Stoltzfus win, where Stoltzfus just made a dumbass mistake, and he was winning that fight. Duran win is not good. Trevin Giles makes dumb mistakes and has horrible fight IQ. And what does a guy with horrible fight IQ do against Gerald Meerschaert? How about hopping into his guard after winning the first 2 rounds in round number 3 and then getting submitted predictably? But these guys that are beating Meerschaert, look at this: 5-0 Kamaev, 4-4 Heinisch. That's 8 total fights. That's the least experienced guy that's beaten him. Anders 6-6, 12 fights. Holland 14 fights. Hermanson 14 fights. Thiago Santos 23 fights. So we see that the guys that Meerschaert's losing to are experienced guys. The guys that Meerschaert is beating are the less experienced guys. The guys who are kind of here for a cup of coffee and then gone. Pachota, gone. Spicely, gone. James, gone. Gigliotti, gone. Giles probably be gone soon. Wynn doesn't even show up for fights. Fabinski, gone. Muradov here to stay. Stoltzfus, maybe one more loss and he's gone, or he might be gone already. So I kind of feel like Jotko fits into the exact type of category of the guy that beats Meerschaert. One, he's got good fight IQ. He's not going to jump into Meerschaert's guard in the 3rd round and lose a fight that he was winning up until that point. He's got excellent takedown defense, and he's got a good get-up game and a very good Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu pedigree when he is on the ground to avoid being submitted. How many times has Chris Jotko been submitted in his career? Let's see. Jotko has been submitted once, and it was in the UFC by Magnus Siedenblad back in 2014. So there we go, you guys. In the last second, by the way, of the 2nd round, if he could have lasted one more second, he would have made it to the 3rd round. So this is a guy that's very difficult to submit. He fights very smart. And right now, Krzysztof Jotko is a pretty big favorite here. But for some reason, they're fucking up the decision line. Now, of course, the books that I have access to are a bunch of punk-ass bustas. Check out Bet Online. Check out DraftKings. Check out FanDuel. How about having no props out yet on the main event? Marlon Vera versus Rob Font, and DraftKings on Tuesday night doesn't even bother to have a market on it. FanDuel, no market on it. Bet Online, known for having early lines out, too chicken shit to make a market on this fight. Are they too chicken shit to make a market on Meerschaert Jotko? Of course they are. Of course they are, because there's risk there, because these are interesting props and they want no part of it. But Jotko by decision is plus 210, you guys. This is a guy who's got 10 wins in the UFC, and 9 of them are by decision. So Jotko by decision, Meerschaert inside the distance, Meerschaert finish only prop, Jotko decision only prop. These are the ways to play this fight. That's what I'm going to be looking to bet when any of the chicken shit books that I have access to, like DraftKings, FanDuel, and Bet Online, want to pretend like they want to make a market in this fight. Maybe they'll open their lines sometime by Thursday. But until then, can't do anything because the books that I have access to are a bunch of punks. So anyway, those are the bets that I like for this fight. I like Krzysztof Jotko to win this one by decision. Would I be surprised if Meerschaert submitted him? A little bit, because Jotko's a really smart fighter, and Meerschaert isn't like a great wrestler. He doesn't have like this Division I wrestling pedigree to get the fight to the ground to win minutes down there. This guy's only won 2 decisions in his career, and he's got 34 wins. So he's not a good minute winner. Jotko, the opposite, is a great minute winner. Let's see here. The next fight, you guys. Whoo, boy, do we got a banger here. Darren the Damage Elkins squaring off against Tristan Connely. Darren Elkins, the Indiana wrestling legend, a high school record of 191-9, 4-time freestyle wrestling state champion in Indiana, 2-time Greco-Roman wrestling state champion in Indiana, 25 UFC fights, 36% professional fights. If this fight goes to decision, Darren Elkins will have spent more than 300 minutes in the UFC cage, 5 hours of his life bleeding like a stuck pig in the UFC cage, causing some poor people to have to wash that canvas every time he fights to scrub the blood out of there. And we got Tristan Connely, who's only 1 year younger than Darren Elkins here. These guys are the same height. It's going to be Elkins with a 3-inch reach advantage. They're both orthodox fighters here. But Elkins with a big experience advantage. He's got 15 more professional fights, about 200 more minutes in the pro cage, 3 more years as a pro, 23 more UFC level fights, and about 250 more minutes in the UFC cage. So a huge experience advantage here for Elkins, a 3-inch reach advantage here for Elkins. Tristan Connely, though, a 93% finish rate. 13 of 14 wins coming inside the distance for Tristan Connely. Very interesting. Darren Elkins, a 54% finish rate, and he's finished, it looks like 6 of his 16 UFC wins inside the distance, 4 by knockout, 2 by submission. He's been finished in 4 of his 9 UFC losses. Tristan Connely only loss in the UFC was a decision. And Tristan Connelly's been finished in 2 of his 7 pro losses. And for Elkins, it's 5 of his 10 pro losses. The striking numbers, you guys. Elkins lands more than he absorbs, landing 3.44 and absorbing only 3.09. He throws 2.5 more significant strike attempts per minute than his opponents do. 38.27% striking accuracy isn't great. Only 2 knockdowns in 25 UFC fights, so he's not really known for his power. And he's been knocked down, it looks like, 6 times in 25 fights. So 0.31 knockdowns allowed per 15 minutes. Tristan Connely has been knocked down once in 2 fights. So he's 0.5 knockdowns allowed per 15 minutes. He's also landing almost 1 more significant strike attempt per minute than he absorbs, and he's throwing almost 2 more attempts per minute than his opponents are. So Elkins has got the most ever takedowns in the featherweight division with 51. He's attempted 155, and over a 25-fight sample size, he's out-controlling his opponents at better than a 2-to-1 ratio and spending over 52% of his 288 minutes in the UFC cage in control time positions for or against. So Connely is actually about 67% in control time positions for or against, you guys. So both of these guys seem to be comfortable in the grappling. Tristan has only gotten 1 of his 7 takedown attempts, and he's been taken down 3 out of 10 times, and he's been controlled for over 50% of the 30 minutes that he's spent in the UFC cage. So if Elkins, and I think that this is what Elkins needs to do, I think Elkins is going to need to wrestle and win minutes on the ground here, because I'm very, very worried about Darren Elkins' durability at this point, you guys. Look at this. He's absorbed 893 significant strikes in 25 fights. You know, I mean, this guy is, you know, taking a lot of damage. You know, when they put the Vaseline on his face before he walks into the cage, usually the Vaseline will open up a wide cut in his forehead, and he'll be bleeding like a stuck pig while they're announcing out of Portage, Indiana, Darren Elkins. So, I mean, the guy's gonna bleed. He's got the damage tattooed on his chest. Dude, he's been through it. And a lot of the fights that he's won in the UFC, he was losing, and losing badly, and then came back. You know, Tristan Connely is not a good matchup for Darren Elkins. Tristan Connely is known for his grappling. He's a very good grappler. Good wrestling, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, owns his own gym, you know, so... But the problem with Tristan Connely is that this guy's got 21 professional fights, and 3 of them are on tape. 2 UFC fights, and then 1 regional scene fight. So when I see that, that's a massive red flag for me. When you're fighting in organizations that literally don't even have fucking television cameras and they don't even have a YouTube channel to be able to, show previous fights, it tells me that you're not fighting anybody that's any good. And here we got Darren Elkins. We could just let's do it because we got to talk about this fight. Who has Darren Elkins fought? I think his second fight in the UFC, was against Charles Oliveira. His first fight was against Dwayne Bang Ludwig. Chad Mendez, Jeremy Stevens, Hakron Diaz, Chaz Skelly, Godofredo Pepe, Bektic, Bermudez, Michael Johnson, the featherweight champion, Alexandr Volkanovski, title challenger, Ricardo Lamas, great grappler, Ryan Hall. And then since then, he's been fighting guys that are a little more on his level, like Landwehr, Garrett Gorey, Minner, Cub Swanson absolutely destroyed him. Darren Elkins has been through it, but the guys that are beating him, 13-8 Swanson, 2-2 Landwehr, 4-1 Hall, 11-6 Lamas, 11-0 Volkanovski, 3-5 Diaz, 15-18 Stevens, 9-5 Mendez, 20-8 Charles Oliveira. This guy's lost to 2 champions. So he's, these guys have got winning records. And the guys that he's beating are actually below 500. 70 wins, 75 losses. Wins over guys that are like 1-7 Omagawa, 1-3 Zhang Tiquan. Wins over Brandau, Seiler, Carvalho, Hatsuhioki, Lucas Martins, Whiteford. Some of them aren't great wins, but he did put together this nice winning streak here between 2015 and 2018. But since then, he's lost 5 out of his last 7 fights, and the guys that he's beaten have a combined 3-6 record in the UFC. So I like Elkins' wrestling. I like his ability to be able to win minutes with the wrestling. The striking, I think, is going to be close. Elkins' striking is not great, and he gets hit an absolute shit ton on the feet. He blocks punches with his face. So, I really kind of think that Elkins is going to have to make this as greasy and dirty as possible, and I think that Tristan Connely is going to be able to stop some of these takedowns and maybe reverse him on the ground. Darren gets put in a lot of bad positions on the ground. I think that this fight is going to play out very, very close. I like Elkins' wrestling better. I like Elkins' strength of schedule better. I like Elkins' experience better. But Connely's the better finisher. Connely, I think, has better conditioning. One thing that's really important to note about Connely is that we know when Elkins is at his best. And Elkins has the best chance to win the fight when he's got more heart, more conditioning, and he lets his opponent kind of tire themselves out, and then he finishes them late. Well, the problem with Connely is that this guy's got some late finishes on his record, you guys. Let's look at Tristan Connely here. Now, like we said, he's finished all but one of his wins inside the distance. And the one that he didn't finish was against 170-pound Michelle Pereira. Round 5 against Dewan Owens, unanswered blows, 156. Couple of 2 round 1 finishes here. Jay Parati, 8-0, armbar, round 4. His most recent loss was against Shane Campbell, who's a UFC veteran, and he lost that fight with 6 seconds left in the fight via knee bar. But there was 5-minute rounds, so there were 5 rounds in that one, so he could have lost it later. But he's got a win with 347 into round 3, 247 into round 3. Look, Tristan Connely, since the year 2017, has 4 finishes that took place after the second round. So I don't think he's going to get tired, you guys. I don't think he's going to get tired. I don't think that I think Darren Elkins will probably be the one getting tired because he's probably going to be the one absorbing the bigger blows. He's probably going to be the one offensive wrestling more. And I think that Tristan Connely is going to actually give him some problems here. I'm a huge Darren Elkins fan. I cashed a ticket on him against Minner. I cashed a ticket against him in the Cub Swanson fight. I've been getting his fights right. I think, we've got to be honest with ourselves. 350 minutes in the pro cage, 36 pro fights, most of them wars. most of them against really top-notch competition. I think Elkins might be coming to the end of his rope. Tristan Connely, a lot less shop-worn here. I'm going to actually pick Tristan Connely to win this one. Third-round finish over Darren Elkins here. It makes me sad to pick against Darren Damage Elkins. I think he's coming to the end of his rope here, and I think that Tristan Connely is a decent dog shot here, and I'm going to actually be taking a look at him to win this one inside the distance simply because he's such a good finisher, and he's so good later on in fights that I think that he's a nightmare matchup for Darren Elkins at this point in his career. So the pick's going to be Tristan Connely to win by third-round finish, you guys. Let me see what's going on here. Yeah, damage is damaged. I just saw that. Elkins by bleeding on Connely for 10 to 15 minutes. Yeah, man, that's a good one. And let's see what else you guys are saying. Yeah, Elkins' third-round decision could be interesting. And then keep shitting on the casinos, Weezy, so I can release the impotent range PSI I've built up against them. Yeah, dude, it's so fucked up. Yeah, and I mean, 20-foot dark saber, you're not touching this one with. I get it, man. I get it. All right, let's see here. So we've got the next fight, you guys, is Grant Dawson versus Jared Gordon. And in the description of this video, you can find a link to a balls deep breakdown that I did on this fight already on the MMA Engine channel. We went almost an hour into it, talked about all the possible angles of this fight. I'm going to sum it up for you as quickly as I can. It's Grant Dawson, who's younger, bigger, and stronger here, and he fights out of both stances. Both these guys fighting out of great camps. Sanford MMA for Jared Gordon, ATT now for Grant Dawson. He used to be over at Glory. The experience numbers are similar. Jared Gordon, 3 more fights, 125 more minutes in the pro cage, and about 3.5 more years as a pro, and 2 more UFC level fights, and 20 more minutes in the UFC cage. So Dawson's going to be bigger. Jordan's going to be more experienced. Dawson's the way better finisher here, as he's got an 89% finish rate, while Gordon has only got a 44% finish rate. And Dawson has finished 4 of his 6 UFC wins, while Jared Gordon has only finished 1 of his 6 UFC wins, and that was against Michelle Quinones, who probably shouldn't have been here in the first place. 5 combined wins between Grant Dawson and Jared Gordon as pros. They've all been inside the distance, you guys. So this is a fight that people have. We've got a really juiced fight goes to decision here. I think that the value is on the fight doesn't go to decision. Dawson's a fantastic finisher, and Jared Gordon has been finished in all of his pro losses. So very interesting. And even Dawson's been finished in his only loss. So, and he was damn close to getting finished against what's his name, Ricky Glenn. The striking numbers, Gordon lands 2.1 more significant strikes per minute than he absorbs, which is fantastic. And he throws 1.6 more attempts per minute than his opponents do. But Dawson is also outlanding his opponents by about 1 significant strike per minute, and he's out voluming them by 2 significant strikes per minute. But it's Jared Gordon with a much better striking defense at 59%, Grant Dawson at 50%. I mean, in the striking here, it's really pretty simple. Grant Dawson's one of the worst lightweights striking-wise in the entire UFC. He is a grappler. That's where he spends all of his time. That's where he does his best work. His striking is just deficient at the UFC level, but it doesn't matter that much because he knows it's not good, and he wrestles to hide the fact that his striking is bad. So he's got good IQ. He knows where he's good, he knows where he's deficient, and he chooses to fight where he's best. But he's going to have to grapple Jared Gordon, and guess what? That's where Jared Gordon is best. So Gordon will be the better, crisper striker. He's just got better boxing than Dawson. But when we look at the grappling numbers side by side, we see guys who are winning fights in similar fashions here. Gordon outcontrols his opponents at about 4.5 to 1. For Dawson, it's about 6 to 1. 18 takedowns in 7 fights for Dawson, 17 takedowns in 9 fights for Gordon. So both of these guys are averaging more than 2.5 takedowns for 15 minutes, but it's Grant Dawson who actually attempts submissions on the ground. Jared Gordon is just trying to win minutes. He's a lay and pray grappler. He doesn't go for submissions. Jared Gordon has had 9 UFC fights, you guys. He's never even attempted a submission. So Gordon is very cognizant about the fact that he doesn't have power on the feet and that he's very chinny on the feet. But he hides that well by wrestling his opponents and by also surviving on the ground when his opponents take him down and potentially getting reverses there, which is a very big thing. It's how he would have had no chance to win the fight against Selecki unless he got that big reverse in the second round, and he did. And once he did, what did he do? He laid on him for 2.5 minutes, threw no strikes, did nothing, attempted no submissions, but he realized if I stay on top for 2.5 minutes here, I win this round, then all I got to do is win the third. And the third was just a toss-up. Selecki fought like shit, didn't shoot any takedowns, and he gave Gordon the fight. And Selecki was a decent-sized favorite, sitting around minus 140 in that particular spot. So Gordon does the exact same things well on the ground that Dawson does. And what I don't like about Dawson is that he's done really well when he's been fighting guys like Trizano, Minner, Narimani, Erosa, guys that aren't known for great wrestling defense and stuff like that and great grappling attacks. When he went against Santos and Glenn, he had a really hard time getting takedowns. Once he got them down, he was able to keep them down, but he used so much energy trying to get them down that he gassed out against Ricky Glenn. And Leonardo Santos was successful enough stopping the takedowns against Grant Dawson to most likely win the first 2 rounds. And if Dawson doesn't get the last second Hail Mary ground and pound knockout, he probably loses that fight. And he came damn close to losing against Ricky Glenn. So I do have a bet on Grant Dawson. I've got a 1.5 unit bet. I got it at minus 144. But I got to tell you guys here, I think Grant Dawson does win this fight. I think he's just a little bit better on the ground than Gordon. But if he makes any mistakes, and if he tries to take down Glenn and Santos the same way, if he tries to take down Gordon the same way he tried to take down Glenn and Santos, and what I've noticed about Dawson is that he's not particularly good with his technique. He tries to muscle you to the ground. He tries to drag you there. He's not really, using great technique. He's just trying to be bigger than you, stronger than you, and get you down there. And then once you're there, he just wants you to make you wear his weight. And then he's going to try to grind you down and finish you. And he's good at finishing once he gets you down there. But I could see him gassing out again because he doesn't have good technique, because he would just want to muscle Jared Gordon to the ground. And if he tries to do that, you guys, I think that he might gas out. We might see Jared Gordon win 2 out of these 3 rounds. It's going to be a close fight. I don't think Grant Dawson is that much better anywhere than Jared Gordon. I think he's a little bit better in the grappling, and I think that will be enough to win this fight. But I'm not laying minus 160, minus 170 on Grant Dawson. I'm happy I got him at minus 144, but I'm telling you something. If Gordon goes to plus 160, plus 170 by fight time, I'm arbing out of this bet, and I'm taking a guaranteed profit because Grant Dawson is a very similar fighter to Joe Selecki. And if Grant Dawson winds up on bottom, he's got nothing. And he's gonna wear Gordon's weight for the rest of the round if Gordon gets a takedown or if Gordon gets a reverse, or most importantly, if Dawson gets sloppy trying to drag this fight to the ground, and as a result of that, Gordon reverses position and gets on top. That's how I see Gordon winning this fight. I'm going to pick Grant Dawson to win by decision, you guys. But I think that Jared Gordon is very live. And I also think the fight doesn't go to decision because all 5 of these guys' combined losses have been inside the distance. Is a very sneaky bet this week at nice plus money. It is at fight doesn't go is at plus 155 right now on Bet Online. So they're telling you it's less than a 40% implied probability that this thing finishes inside the distance. Yet Grant Dawson has finished 93% of his pro wins inside the distance, and he's the favorite. So good look there. So next fight. Excuse me, you guys. Let me get a drink and get a coffee. All right. We got 3 more fights to get through, you guys. Andre Fili against Joanderson Brito. We got Fili checking in at minus 250. Joanderson Brito at plus 210. Fight doesn't go to decision. Sitting at plus money, you guys, at plus 110 for this one. So, let's get at the stats. Joanderson Brito, even though he looks like he's 43, he's got one of those lovely Brazilian birth certificates that says he's 27. And if you think I'm being a dick, let me just show you the picture so that you don't just think I'm being a dick, because I don't know how this guy is only 27 years old with a face like this. Look at that. He looks shop worn. He looks like he's 40, doesn't he? But anyway, it doesn't matter. He's younger. He's 27 years old, born in 1995. But it's going to be Fili that's the much taller guy here, 3 inches taller. He's got 2 inches of reach. Both of these guys are orthodox fighters. Shootbox Baru for Brito and Team Alpha Male for Fili. Fili's got about twice as many pro fights. He's got 220 more minutes in the cage. He's got 4 more years as a pro, 15 more UFC fights, and 170 more minutes in the UFC cage. Joanderson Brito is a fantastic equal opportunity finisher. He's finished 5 of his 12 wins by knockout, 5 of his 12 wins by submission, and he's got 2 wins by decision in his career. Fili, a 57% finish rate in his 21 wins, and he's got a 50% finish rate in his 8 losses. And Joanderson Brito has been finishing 2 of his 3 losses. So in 11 combined losses, we've got 6 of them coming inside the distance. And we've got Brito being a very good finisher, finishing 10 of his 12 wins inside the distance as a pro. In the striking stats here, I think it's just important to talk technical stuff here. You know, Fili is long. He switches stances. His punches come right down the middle. He throws vicious head kicks, vicious leg kicks. Things really come with bad intentions from Fili. And technically, he is 3 times, 4 times better of a striker than Brito. Brito is one of these guys who's looking to punt your head into the upper deck. He's looking to do it quickly. And if he doesn't, he's going to have some problems. Brito has pacing problems. Just like Yohan Lainesse, like we talked about earlier. When you're not technical, when you throw everything, he looks like he's throwing a fastball when he's trying to land that overhand right. And it's almost kind of fucking funny because it's so slow. It's so technically piss poor. You don't expect somebody with that bad a technical striking to be up at this level, but he throws with such intention. And he's so good at dragging his opponents into that knockdown, drag-out war that all it takes is one. He throws with such bad intentions that he touches you once, you're going down. And then he might be able to submit you down there because he's got decent wrestling. He's got a good Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu game. But, I mean, Fili should be able to stand and pick this guy apart. He should be able to see everything coming an absolute mile away. He just has to be careful not to fight Brito's fight because Fili's way better than this guy. But Brito is incredibly dangerous. I see this fight being similar to that Lainesse Green fight in that I think Brito is very front-loaded here. And we've seen Fili finished in the UFC, and we've seen him finished quickly before. So there is a path here for Brito. And we've seen Brito get 5 takedowns in 2 UFC fights here thus far. He's gotten 5 out of 8. He's out-controlling his opponents 50% to 20%. And what I've seen at the UFC level thus far from Brito in the Lopez fight and in the Algio fight is that he'll throw those fucking bombs and he'll try to land them, but he'll also use them to kind of fall into takedown attempts to get into the clinch and then to potentially also get into wrestling attacks where he tries to take you down. So Brito is not just going to stand and throw bombs for the full 15 minutes because he knows he's going to gas out. And he's not just going to wrestle for the full 15 minutes because he knows he'll gas out trying to do that as well. But he'll throw big shots. He'll try to wrestle. And then when he gets on top, he's going to try to rest. And then eventually his opponent will get up and then he'll start throwing bombs again. But he can't fight at that pace for a full 3 rounds. And he's going to be very compromised if this fight gets out of the first round. Fili is notoriously tough, very well-rounded. He's pretty much spent his entire pro mixed martial arts career training at Team Alpha Male. So for a guy who's primarily known for his striking, we look at these grappling numbers. Dude, he's got 32 takedowns in 64 attempts. He's getting them at a 50% clip. He's controlling his opponents 15% of the 192 minutes that he's been in the pro cage or in the UFC cage. And he's been taken down 20 times and been controlled about 20% of his UFC career. So guys have been able to win some minutes on the ground against him. They've been able to take him down 1.56 times for 15 minutes. But, you know, Fili gets takedowns too. And when fights are striking matches, I've noticed that Fili's really good with a minute left in the round in a close round of being able to get that takedown and win rounds that way. I think it was the Jourdain fight, you know, that he won by split decision. It was because he got some late takedowns, or he was getting takedowns at the end of each round, round 1, round 2, and round 3. He was shooting for takedowns in those fights, and that's what got him that decision. Fili has fought by far the better brand of competition. It's not even close. Fili's bigger. He's more experienced. He's fought the better brand of competition. He's the better technical striker. He's the more efficient minute winner with his wrestling. And his takedown defense is solid, you guys. It's 68.25%. And like I say, on those 20 takedowns, he's been controlled about 38 minutes. So less than 2 minutes per takedown completed. And he has spent a lot of time on the cage being controlled, especially in 192 minutes of cage time. So in Fili, we saw a guy in his last opponent in Pineda. That's a similar opponent. A guy who throws with a ton of power, who tries to take your leg off below the knee and land big shots, put you in bad spots. And Daniel Pineda, just like Joanderson Brito, is a natural finisher. And we saw Fili really thrive in that war with Pineda and land big shots, and they were hurting. You know, and this guy keeps switching stances. So if you start chopping off one of his legs, he'll switch to southpaw and start landing that straight left right down the pipe. So I just think that as dangerous as Joanderson Brito will be in the first round of this fight, that there's really, I can't think of any place that Brito is better than this guy. And the fact that he lost to Algio, who's a similar archetype to Fili, he's a lot more wonky than Fili, and he's a lot more awkward, but he's long, he throws straight punches, he's got some power, he's got durability, and he's got conditioning, and he doesn't really get put in bad spots on the ground, or if he does, he gets back up. Algio is a master of giving you his back, and then when you go to his back, he stands back up. So as long as Fili doesn't engage Joanderson Brito in the war and try to win fight of the night in the first 2 minutes, I think that he should dismantle this dude. But Joanderson Brito round 1 is something I'm going to be taking a long look at, because Fili does seem to love these wars, and I'm just worried he's going to engage Brito, and Brito is going to throw a fastball looking like fucking Roger Clemens, and it's going to come over the top, clip him behind the ear, and it'll be the end of the fight. But I still got to pick Andre Fili. He's better everywhere, and he should absolutely win this fight if he doesn't make a huge mistake. All right. Next fight, you guys. Andrei Arlovski against Fat Collier. We got Fat Collier coming into plus 115. Andrei Arlovski minus 135. The fight doesn't go to decision at plus 145. I'll go through the numbers here. You know, Arlovski's 10 years older. Fat Collier, 1-inch reach advantage. Pit MMA for Fat Collier, ATT for Arlovski. 36 more fights for Arlovski, about 340 more minutes in the pro cage. 11 more years as a pro, 27 more UFC fights, 250 more minutes in the UFC cage, 61% finish rate for Arlovski, 69% finish rate for Fat Collier, 67% finish rate in the losses for Collier, 65% finish rate in the losses for Arlovski. So Arlovski's fights ever since the Travis Brown fight have just been low volume, stand on the outside boxing matches, very little power, no knockdowns. I expect this fight to be no different. I expect it easily to be the most boring fight on the card. It's going to be a boxing match that most likely happens for 15 minutes and is going to go to a split decision. I don't know who's going to win. I don't fucking care who's going to win. Neither of these guys is going to sniff the top 10 in this division. God. I mean, respect to Andrei Arlovsky for still cashing checks at the age of 43. When you've been in the organization for this long, it's really easy to get cut because they pay you more than they pay the younger, more exciting fighters. And here again, we got this guy being in a co-main event, and I don't know anybody that's looking forward to this fight. I don't know anybody that says this is going to be a good fight. It's going to be a boxing match. It's going to be a low-volume boxing match. Fat Collier is going to try to out-volume him. Andrei Arlovsky is going to probably be just too veteran savvy because Fat Collier just doesn't have that varied of an attack here. And he doesn't have good enough conditioning either. So I think Andrei Arlovsky by decision. Am I betting it? No. Should you bet it? I mean, if you got a good feeling about it, but when you break down 14, 13 fights every week and you have to be there every week, as a content creator and as a gambler, there are some fights when you look at it and I see Fat Collier and Arlovsky and I'm like, do I want to go down a rabbit hole watching Fat Collier tape, watching Andrei Arlovsky? I mean, look, it's hard to watch Andrei Arlovsky fights and not fall asleep. So have I sat and went through all this tape? No, because I'm not betting it because it's a very predictable fight in terms of it's going to be low volume, it's going to be boxing, and it's going to be boring as fuck. So Andrei Arlovsky by decision. Next, we got a good fight here, though. Rob Font, Marlon Vera. Rob Font checking in minus 132. Marlon Vera plus 112. Fight doesn't go to decision. Plus money at plus 115, you guys. Let's see. We've got Marlon Vera is 5 years younger than Rob Font. 29 for Vera, 34 for Font. Oh, and by the way, you guys, link in the description of this video to the stats. You can download them for free. I always making them available for free for you guys. So you can, follow along and use these things to make good gambling decisions for yourself. But I also did a main event breakdown with my guy DFS by the numbers on the MMA Engine YouTube channel. The link to that is in the description. We went balls deep on this fight, went into all the angles. If you want a more nuanced breakdown, check that out. But Marlon Vera is going to be the 5 years younger guy here. I like that. Font's got 1 inch of reach. Marlon fights out of both stances. Rob's an orthodox fighter. Team Oyama for Vera. Team Sit Yudong for Rob Font on the East Coast. United States for Rob Font. Ecuador for Marlon. 2 more fights for Marlon. 15 more minutes in the cage and 6 more months as a pro. And he's got 5 more fights at the UFC level and 50 more minutes in the UFC cage. So very interesting, right? He's 5 years younger than Rob Font, but he's actually got 2 more professional fights, 5 more UFC fights, 50 more minutes in the UFC cage. So I already like what I'm seeing here. Then we add in the fact that Vera is the much better finisher. He's got a 83% finish rate in 18 career wins. That's 15 wins inside the distance out of 18, while Rob Font has got a 63% finish rate in 19 wins. Rob Font is very durable. He's only been finished once in 5 UFC losses or in 5 pro losses, and Marlon Vera has never been finished. So 12 combined losses for these guys. Only one of them has been inside the distance, and it was by submission against Rob Font. So definitely a couple of very durable dudes here. But it's a 5-round fight, and we've never seen Marlon Vera past the 3rd. So that's something we have to keep in mind. The durability, I still have to go with Marlon Vera. And here's why. Marlon Vera has absorbed 859 strikes in the UFC, which is about as many as Darren Elkins has. And he's never been knocked down. Not once. Not knocked down, not knocked out, ever. So you need to bring a shovel into the cage in order to knock out Marlon Vera. But when we look at the striking numbers, we're going to see that the minute winner on the feet is most likely to be Rob Font. He's got 5.64 significant strikes landed per minute, 3.55 absorbed. He's throwing a lot more volume than his opponents. He throws 12.67 significant strike attempts per minute, and his opponents are only throwing 8.85. So he's out-voluming his opponents. He's outlanding his opponents. He's got a beautiful jab that is very long and that he uses to maintain distance. He's got some power, you guys. He's got 6 knockdowns in 13 UFC fights. He's got 0.6 knockdowns per 15 minutes, and he's only been knocked down once in 533 significant strikes absorbed. So very good. 13 fights, only 1 knockdown against for Rob Font. So he's also very durable. Now, Marlon is landing 4.08 significant strikes a minute, and he's absorbing 4.27. So he's actually kind of losing minutes on the feet. But he's also got very good power. He's landing 6 knockdowns in 18 fights, and he's never been knocked down. So he's probably the more likely guy to land a knockdown here simply because he lands them at about the same rate as Font. 0.71% for Font, 0.73% for Vera. But it's Vera who's never been knocked down, and Rob Font has. So maybe the power advantage here goes to Vera. We'll see. But the durability advantage, especially on the feet, absolutely goes to Vera. But in the grappling here, we see Font has gotten 11 takedowns in 13 fights. He's averaging over 1 takedown per 15 minutes. And he's getting 10.5% control time and yielding about 17.5% control time. Not good takedown defense for Rob Font. Only sitting at 55%. So that number would mean more to me if we saw Vera shooting for takedowns more often. But actually, Font shoots for more takedowns per fight than Vera does. Font's shooting about 2.2 takedowns per fight. Vera shooting about less than 1.5 takedown attempts per fight. So, but Vera is getting them at a 42% clip. He's averaging 0.82 takedowns for 15 minutes. He's very active once the fight is on the ground, going for submissions, attempting more than 1.2 submission attempts per 15 minutes. And he's getting out-controlled at about a 2-to-1 ratio here. 14% control time for, 26% control time against. But that's not terrible because his opponents are attempting twice as many takedowns as he is. So you would expect that, they would out-control him at maybe about a 2-to-1 ratio. And that's the case. So Font is being out-controlled almost at a 2-to-1 ratio, and he's being out-takedown attempted by about 4-3. So, both of these guys have been fairly efficient in the grappling exchanges. It's just that Rob Font is more known to be a minute winner on the feet, while Marlon Vera can win moments on the feet, but can actually finish fights on the ground. He's got vicious ground and pound. He's got excellent submissions, great Brazilian jiu-jitsu games. So this is a fight that feels like, okay, where's it going to take place? Because if it takes place standing, you see Font winning minutes, but potentially Vera landing a big elbow or a big shot, putting him in trouble and maybe getting the fight to the ground. But when the fight is on the ground, especially if Vera is the one to get it there, I think that he will be the much better minute winner on the ground than Font will be the better minute winner on the feet. So, but like I said, Vera's fights taking place in control time positions about 40% of the time. Font about 28% of the time. So I think if this fight gets to control time positions about 40% of the time, I'm leaning Vera. But if it sits down there around 25% of the time, I think I'm leaning Font here because he should be the better minute winner on the feet. And he maintains distance very well with the jab. In terms of strength of schedule, I gotta lean Font here. 1.65 ratio for Font to 1.48 for Vera. 11.23 total fights for Font. 8.94 for Vera. And then the wins are a little bit better for Font too. A little bit better ratio and a little bit more in the total fights. And the losses, it's the same thing. So Rob Font has got the better strength of schedule, and he's got the better technical striking. I think Marlon Vera is going to be better on the ground. Marlon Vera is more experienced, and he's younger, and he's the better finisher. Plus, we've seen Marlon Vera kind of get off to slow starts. So we see Marlon Vera losing 3-round fights by decision, but mostly winning 3-round fights inside the distance. But he gets better as the fight goes on. It's going to be very interesting to see what Marlon Vera looks like in the 4th and 5th rounds if this goes there, because we've never seen him there before. It's easy to assume that he'll be fantastic there because he works his way into fights and he gets better as the fight goes on. But, you know, Rob Font's been to the 5th round before a few times, and he's done it against some guys that are really good and that a lot of people would consider to be above Marlon Vera's level at this point. So, you know, this is a question to me. It's a very close fight. I think that I'm leaning Font in the striking. I'm leaning Vera in the durability. The conditioning is close. The power goes to Vera. The finishing goes to Vera. The durability goes to Vera. And that's what's got me leaning Marlon Vera in this fight. I think Marlon Vera is going to win this fight, and I think he's going to win it inside the distance, you guys. He's such a great finisher. I think he could be terrifying in the 4th and 5th rounds. And since he's already comfortable working his way slowly into fights, I think a 5-round fight could potentially favor him, despite the fact that we've seen Font have more 5-round experience. I believe this is Vera's first 5-round fight. So it is in the UFC at least. So, yeah, you guys, I got to pick Marlon Vera here. I'm going to pick him to win it late, 4th, 5th round ground and pound KO. Or he could potentially land something on the ground. But I'm going to pick Marlon Vera to win this one by knockout, you guys. We did it. We made it through all 12 fights, you guys. Let's see here. I'm going to put this up before we get to the last 2 orders of business for the night, you guys. I just want to drop what I think are some interesting bets here. Rob Font by decision. You know, Marlon Vera is not really a minute winner. So I think if this fight does go all 5 rounds, that means that Vera didn't finish Font, and that means that maybe he didn't get the fight to where he needed it long enough in order to do damage and win enough rounds to win minutes here. So I think Font by decision, the finish only prop for Marlon Vera, since we've never seen him finished. And because the fight is close, we might be able to get that at close to even money here. And I think that's a really good bet. The Meerschaert finish only prop. I mean, the guy has 34 wins and only 2 of them are by decision. So we know that this guy's best win condition is to win fights inside the distance. We also know that Jotko couldn't finish a glass of water. He's got 1 UFC win that's inside the distance in 10 UFC wins. So this is not a finisher. I like that finish only prop for Meerschaert. Jotko by decision at better than plus 200 is a steal, in my opinion, seeing as 90% of his win condition is by decision anyway, and the guy's already over 62% to win the fight, and you're going to get him by decision at better than or less than a 33% implied probability. That's an easy bet. The Jotko decision only is also a good bet, I think. Lacerda inside the distance, you know, I think if he loses this fight, it means that he didn't finish it because he's won all of his fights inside the distance. If he doesn't win it inside the distance, he's probably not going to win it. So we could get Lacerda at plus money instead of having to pay up for minus 130 for him to be the guy that's more experienced and has better training partners. Gabe Green round 3, Yohan Lainesse round 1. I think that one's going to be Lainesse early or Green late. And I think both of those bets are nice fat props that we can look at here. But the next thing that we need to look at, we got 2 orders of business. And the first one here is Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the year, continued from last week. It's an unbettable fight, but it doesn't mean that Alexandr Romanov isn't going to go in here with a razor, with some shaving cream, and just completely shave the ass of the hapless Chase Sherman, you guys. I got first round ground and pound knockout. I got it as the ass shaving of the year, as it should be, because nobody should ever be a minus 2,500 favorite. But you guys, it was so hard this week. It was so hard. Look, I kind of wanted to pick Marlon Vera for the ass shaving of the week because I think he's got some nice stylistic advantages here over Font. Collier Arlovsky not touching it. Fili Brito. I mean, Fili is a minus 250 favorite, so he'd be a great choice. But god damn, this Brito is dangerous. And Fili likes to get into wars, so it really worries me. I think Dawson should beat Gordon, but I mean, I just think that Dawson's not that much better anywhere than Jared Gordon, so I can't pick him to shave ass. Elkins, Connely, man, I think that this is going to be close. Jotko, Meerschaert, I could see this going a couple of different ways. Lacerda, Figueiredo. I mean, here's two guys who have 31 fights between them, and you can find tape on like less than 20% of those fights. So are these guys any good? No, we don't know. We really don't know. I mean, Figueiredo could have shown some awesome finishing skills on the regional scene. We've never seen it. None of the tape is available. And Lacerda, we've got like 2 fights, and he's out there starching 0-0 dudes with head kicks in the first 30 seconds. So I don't know what to think of those fights. So I can't do this one. I mean, yeah, Romanov's going to shave ass, but you don't need me to tell you that. Gabe Green's a good pick, but Lainesse is just too fucking dangerous. And Gabe Green talking about getting punched in the heart and his heart essentially stopping, and that being the reason he's been away from the cage for over a year. Can't do it. Levy, Breeden. I mean, Levy's got 7 pro fights. I can't pick him. Mazany, Young. I'm terrified Gina Mazany's going to gas out here against Shanna Young. Candelario, Taira. No, man, I'm not picking a 22-year-old making his UFC debut, making his first fight in the United States, first time fighting outside of Japan. You guys, I had to do something that terrified me this week. And Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week, though, is the guy that I think he's just better everywhere. And I kind of feel like if Brito doesn't land a Hail Mary overhand right, it's got to be Fili. He's going to be the better boxer. He's the better wrestler. He's faced 10 times better grapplers than Joanderson, Brito. If Fili gets put on his back, he's not going to lay there like Delano Lopez did when Brito was taking him down and played jiu-jitsu off his back. He's going to get back up. And he's done a very good job of that at the UFC level. So I think that he's going to be picking apart this guy from the outside. I think that he's going to be landing huge shots. And I think it's going to look a lot like the Pineda-Fili fight before the eye poke, where Fili was just one-sided, kicking the ass of Pineda. I don't think Brito's on his level, but I am terrified that he could do something in the first round to get Fili out of there if Fili decides to engage in the war. But you guys, I'm picking Andre Fili to keep this streak going. My guy, take no prisoners in the room, saying, come on, Weezy, 2 most confident picks. The 2 most confident picks this week. All right, first pick. Let's look at an over 2.5, if there is one. Minus 260 for the over 2.5 in the Vera Font fight, I think is a very good bet. It's only available on 5 dimes right now. We'll get some more alternative over-unders when DraftKings, FanDuel, and BetOnline decide to fucking sack up and actually make markets on the main event fight that's happening this weekend. So we got to hope for that. But I like the over 2.5 for Vera Font. I like the fight doesn't go to decision for Da Silva Figueiredo, which is sitting right now around minus 105, minus 110. And I like the over 2.5 at minus 105 here on Caesars for Candelario, for Carlos Candelario versus Tatsuro Taira, to quote Harry Carey, the late great Harry Carey. So those are 3 confident picks that I have that are in over unders here. Fight goes, fight doesn't goes. But like in terms of the money lines this week, I am not confident in anybody, which is why I had a hard time making these picks. But you guys, we did it. We got through all this stuff. We got through 12 fights. We got through an ass shaving of the year. We got through an ass shaving of the week. All these stats are available for free download, you guys, in the description of the video. over 60 of you guys hanging out with me tonight. I appreciate each and every one of you for spending your Tuesday night with me, your host, Uncle Weezy, here on Just the Tip. You guys, we have one order of business left, and that's to stack cash tickets like flapjacks for UFC Vegas 53. Check me out tomorrow on Pub Sports Radio, 7 o'clock Central Time, or I'm sorry, 6 o'clock Central Time for the DFS show that I do with DFS by the Numbers, Monk and Luke from Sparring with Reality Betting. And then check me out tomorrow night. I'll be right back here, 10:30. 10:30 Central Time after the Club and Sub podcast to do Ask Weezy, where I will just bring up my prop template. I'll bring up my my database of stats, and you can ask me about any of the fights on this card and ask me any specific questions you might have about how the stats relate to who's going to win or who's going to lose or what over-under bets you like. You guys, thank each and every one of you guys for hanging out with me. I will see you guys tomorrow, and let's stack cash tickets like flapjacks for UFC Vegas 53. You guys have a great night. Take care.